to give them the truth, now they say I preach. I'm trying to give them this word, now they say I preach. I open up my book, now they say I'm preaching. They don't want to come around because they always say I'm preaching. I'm trying to give them this truth, that's what I'm trying to do. Man, I'm trying to save your soul, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to open your eyes to what I'm trying to do. 144,000, don't you want to be counted too? Hey, Shock will take these Hebrews to another.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to another Sharpen Your Sword lesson study. And this lesson study is entitled The Four Beasts of Daniel. We're going to look in the scriptures and we're going to identify these four beasts according to Daniel's dream. And in this dream, there's four beasts. We got the lion with the eagle's wings, the bear with the ribs in its mouth, the leopard with the four heads and the fowl's wings, and the dreadful beast. So we're going to look in scriptures to see exactly which nation is identified by these four beasts. So originally, especially in the religious circles, we've been taught that these four beasts is identified in this respect. But this is a false rendition of this prophecy, this dream by Daniel. They had said the lion with the eagle's wings represent the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. The bear with the ribs in its mouth is Medo Persia under King Darius. The leopard with the fowl's wings is Greece Empire under Alexander. And the dreadful beast is the Roman Empire. But that is not accurate because according to the scriptures, it says something quite different. We see also Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and the dream is of the four kingdoms that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of, and he's part of the statue represents these nations. So in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, each level of the great statue represented an empire. For one empire to the next, there were successive empires. They followed one another. The Babylonian Empire was conquered by Persia, which was conquered by Alexander the Greek, and the Grecians, which was conquered by Rome. So in the end of Nebuchadnezzar's imagery, only the iron and clay feet were crushed by the rock, symbolizing Yahushua at Armageddon. The early empires had already passed from the scene. So this iron clay kingdom, it's a new world order kingdom that was set up by these beasts. So, but all four of Daniel's four beasts are said to be in power in existence when Yahushua returns. So that's why these four beasts cannot be these nations that was in existence in the past, right? It has to be nations that are still in existence in our times. So they could not be true if the lion is ancient Babylon, or if the bear is ancient Persia, or if the leopard is ancient Greece, or if the dreadful beast is ancient Rome. So these four beasts cannot be the ancient kingdoms of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. So therefore, we must identify a modern nation symbolized by a lion. We must identify a modern nation symbolized by an eagle. We must identify a modern nation symbolized by a bear. We must identify a modern nation symbolized by a leopard. And we must identify a modern global government that fits the description of the dreadful beast. So we must identify these four beasts in modern times. The prophecies can only be true if these nations can be identified at the time of the coming of Yahushua the Messiah. So these beasts has to be in rulership or in existence in the end times when Yahushua makes his appearance. So we look at Daniel 7 verse 1. It says, "And in the first year of Belshazzar, sovereign of Babel, Daniel had a dream and vision of his head on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, giving a summary of the matters." Daniel 7 verse 2. "So Daniel spoke and said, I was looking in my vision by night and saw the four winds of the heavens stirring up the great sea." Daniel 7 verse 3. "And four great beasts came up from the sea, different from one another." Jump to Daniel 7 verse 17. It says, these great beasts which are four kings which shall rise out of the earth. Right? So this is a dream, this is a vision that Daniel is seeing about these four great beasts. So these nations will rise from out of the earth in the last days at the end of time, according to the scriptures. Daniel 8 verse 15. And it came to be when I, Daniel, had seen the vision, that I sought understanding, and see before me stood one having the appearance of a mighty man. Daniel 8 verse 16. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, who called and said, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. Daniel 8 verse 17. He then came near where I stood, and when he came, I feared, and I fell on my face. But he said to me, understand, son of man, for the vision is for the time of the end. For the time of the end. Not ancient times when those four nations are ruled at that time. He's talking about nations that's going to be ruling in the end times. Right? Daniel 8 verse 18. And as he was speaking with me, I fell stunned on my face to the ground, and he touched me and made me stand up straight. Daniel 8 verse 19. And he said, look, I am making known to you what shall take place in the latter time of the wrath, for at the appointed time shall be the end. So the scriptures tell us that it's going to be at the end that these beasts are represented by these nations in rulership. Now, we look at the ram. Daniel had a vision with a ram, and the ram had two horns, right? Daniel 8 verse 20. The ram which I saw having two horns are the sovereigns of Media, Persia, right? So these horns represent these two kingdoms, Media, Persia. So the kingdom of Media and Persia is very important for us to identify, right? Because the reason why it's important for us to identify, because that's where a lot of Bible prophecy is going to take place, in that region, right? In that part of the world, which today is known as the Middle East, right? And then there's another goat that Daniel had a dream of, and this goat was a rough goat, right? And Daniel 8 verse 21 says, and the male goat is a sovereign of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes is the first king, right? And the first sovereign. So that first sovereign, that first king is Greece, right? So that horn that's in the middle of his forehead, that's the horn that broke in four pieces, and from those four pieces, that's where those four beasts arise from, right? Those four beasts arise from the horn that broke up the four pieces and became those four beasts that we mentioned earlier. So now we see Satan has a plan. So Satan wants these so-called Middle East lands to be in his domain under the rulership of the nations, the Caucasians, the Europeans, right? This is why they planted their seed there and have produced brown children in those regions, right? So they went there and they conquered them through military might, through rape and murder, right? That's why they're able to conquer the original people that was in that land at that time were dark-skinned people. So, however, they were very unsuccessful in winning the hearts and minds of the people in the so-called Middle East. That's the reason we have the issues we have today: wars, killing, etc. So they weren't able to convince the people in the Middle East to join with them. So by them wanting to be successful in that region, they had to do it by military force. They had to do it by military might, right? In order to win, in order to take that region in their possession. Daniel 8 verse 22 says, and it was broken, and four stood up in its place. Our four rulership arise out of that nation, but not in its power. So he's talking about the rough goat when the horn was broken into four pieces, right? And this is how the four beasts came into being from out of the rank of the Grecian nation. So not in its power. So they're not Greece anymore, but now they're four independent nations. 8 verse 23. And in the latter time of their rule, when the transgressors have filled up their measures, a sovereign fierce of face and skill and intrigue shall stand up. We talk about this nation, right? And that's going to be in the latter times that's going to be so strategic, right? As is mentioned here in Daniel 8 verse 23. So Daniel 8 verse 24, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy incredibly, and shall prosper and strive and destroy mighty men and the set apart people. Right? So we can understand which nation this is really talking about, right? If today we can identify that yes, there's a nation that's exercising some of what was described in this verse here, and that nation we know today is the United States, right? Then in verse 25, and through his skill he shall make deceit prosper in hand, and shall himself be so great in his heart, and destroy many who are at ease, and even stand against the prince of princes, yet without hand he shall be broken. Then in verse 26, and what was said in the vision of the evening and morning is true, and high division, for it is after many days. So it says high division because it is after many days. So now Yah identified these kingdoms in their infancy, but in the last days, in the latter time, their end shall be. These nations will play a major role in the ushering the end of the chastisement of the children of Israel. So Daniel's first beast, the lion with eagle's wings. We can identify this beast. So Daniel 7 verse 4 said, the first was like a lion, and he had eagle's wings. I was looking until his wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made it to stand on 2 feet like a man. It was given a man's heart. So this beast is a beast, right, with the heart of a man. So it's gonna operate as though it's a man, but it's still a beast, right? We still have to understand that this thing is a beast, but it's gonna operate as though it's like a man. So now there have been many nations that have utilized the lion as a symbol. However, in modern times, the lion is most clearly associated with Great Britain. So Great Britain is represented by this lion. So we identify this first beast, the lion. So the lion is Great Britain. So the British lion is universally recognized. It has appeared on the coat of arms of the United Kingdom since King James VI of Scotland ascended to the English throne in 1603. It also appears on several national emblems and flags. Another British symbol, the Lady Britannia, is depicted right in the back of a lion. The lion symbol is depicted behind Britannia and on the British 50p coin, and a lion is shown crowned on the back of the British 10p coin. A lion is also used as a symbol on the non-ceremonial flag of the British Army. Wow. Great Britain is the lion in Daniel's dream. So lion with the eagle's wing plucked off. So the eagle's wing is the United States. In 1776, United States got its independence from Great Britain. Right? That's why they celebrate July 4th. So now we see this prophecy is fulfilled exactly as it was prophesied in a dream, and these wings were plucked off in 1776. And now we just identify now the Great Britain as a lion and the United States as the eagle's wings. So again, there are a few symbols more recognizable in the world today than the American eagle. But how can the American eagle be associated, connected with the British lion? So the United States of America was originally a colonial territory of Great Britain, but it was plucked up from the British Empire when the citizens of the 13 original American colonies wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776, declaring their independence and breaking away from the British Crown, King George III. So after the wings of the eagle were plucked up from the British lion, it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it, according to Daniel 7 verse 4. So it's still a beast with a man's heart. So after 1776 and the rise of the United States of America, Britain became the largest empire in history. So Daniel's second beast, a bear with the ribs in its mouth. So we got to identify which nations is the bear, and also the ribs in its mouth. What does that mean? Daniel 7 verse 5. And see another beast, a second like a bear, and it was raised up on the side, had three ribs, and its mouth between its teeth. And they said this to it, arise, devour much flesh. So there is no doubt whatsoever the bear in modern time is universally identified as Russia. Russia is the bear, according to Daniel's dream. So Wikipedia says that the Russian bear is a national personification for Russia used in cartoons and articles at least since the 19th century, and relating like to Tsarist Russia, the Soviet Union, and its present post-Soviet Russia. It is also used by Westerners, especially Britain and the US, often with the connotation that Russia is a big, brutal, and clumsy. Now Russia themselves have taken up in the bear with the bear image. So the bear named Misha was Russia's mascot at the 1980 Moscow Olympic Games. A bear is a symbol of the United Russian Party, which is a major force in Russian politics. Coincidentally, the name of the president elected in 2008, Medvedev, is a form of the word meaning bear. Right? So, we see the bear mascot at the Olympics of the Russian, it's clearly right there. There's no doubt that the bear is Russia. And we see other images where the bear is used, and you can identify it with Russia. And look at this, Vladimir Putin is wearing a bear, so it's valid now. It's without a doubt that the bear is Russia. And we see the ribs in its mouth. He's speaking of those nations, neighboring nations around Russia, that Russia has been devouring for so many years, has been oppressing these nations, and that's what the rib in its mouth is those nations around Russia. So the bear itself raised itself up on one side and had three ribs in its mouth. It was a meeting of the world's three most powerful nations in Yalta, on the southernmost side of Russia. Joseph Stalin, Tsar of Russia, met with Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of Britain, and Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States. In order to bring World War II to close, these three superpowers failed to liberate a nation that Soviets had recently annexed in war. As a result, most of the Eastern Bloc countries became part of the Soviet Socialist Republics: Eastern Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Albania, and East Germany. So the Russian bear devoured far more than Eastern Europe because Russia birthed a socialist world government that day. So that right on point with the ribs in the bear's mouth. These nations that Russia has been devouring for so many decades. So the communists not only devoured Eastern Europe after Yalta, they effectively devoured the world when they created the United Nations. Right? So much has taken place since that time, and Russia, the bear, is very strategic. What they do, and also oppressing and conquering these nations, the neighboring nations. So we see the bear devours Eastern Europe. April 30, 1945, Soviets storm the Reichstag, hoist the hammer and sickle over the Berlin, Germany. So we see some of these neighboring nations that Russia has been controlling, and for years now they've been under Russian rulership. So now we get to Daniel's third beast, the four-headed leopard with the wings of a fowl. Right? So we're going to see these four heads. How come there's four heads? And how come there's wings of a fowl on this leopard? So we see Daniel 7 verse 6. It says, after this I looked and saw another like a leopard, which had its back four wings of a bird, and the beast also had four heads, rule was given to it. So the four heads represent four kings within a kingdom, right? Four kings within a kingdom. That's why it has four heads. So with the birth of the Holy Roman Empire, now another prophetic picture came to take shape. The four-headed leopard with wings of a fowl, according to Daniel 7 verse 6, no other country in history has been more prominently identified with the leopard than Germany. In the past century, the German Leopard tanks played major roles in World War II. So this four-headed leopard is Germany, four kings within a kingdom. So how comes four heads? Let's take a look. So the symbol of the France is the fowl, the rooster. From postage stamps to golden coins, the French rooster is universally recognized. The Holy Roman Empire can be recognized as a leopard with wings of a fowl. Germany and France both being powerfully manipulated from Rome. So we see, yes, the fowl wings is France. And we see also on France's stamps, they have the rooster, right? And also on other emblems, we can see also the rooster. So France and Germany are very close allies. And we also see when they started the European Union, the president of France was the first one to sit as the head after that organization. So four heads, as I mentioned, represent four Reichs, right? Four Reichs. So that's four kings within a kingdom, and those four kings are four Reichs. So Germany made the embodiment of the four-headed leopard. Germany was indeed had four heads, four Reichs or kingdoms. The main goal of Germany was to reunite the Holy Roman Empire. So when we look at the word Reich, it's the German word for kingdom. In all the history of the Holy Roman Empire, its parliament was known as the Reichstag. Reich meaning empire and stag meaning assembly. So the modern nation of Germany is evolved from Charlemagne Reichstag. As far back as 19 AD, the Reichstag elected the first king of Germany, of the Germans, and in 1871 became the parliament of the German Empire. So we see the first Reich was between 800 to 1806. This was the time of the Holy Roman Empire, beginning with Charlemagne. Most of its empire were actually crowned by a pope. So the first Reich was during the time of Charlemagne reign, right? That's the first head of that beast. So the Second Reich was 1870 to 1919, began under the diplomatic statesmanship of Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor. From a unification of Germany following the Franco-Russian War to the German defeat in the First World War, Bismarck attempted to stop Catholic political control of Germany, but failed, right, during that time. So that was the Second Reich between 1871 to 1919. So the Third Reich, from 1933 to 1945, Adolf Hitler's Germany followed a brief interim called the Weimar Republic. Nazi Germany was defeated in World War II and divided into East and Western Germany. Journalists of that era call it a deadly wound. The deadly wound referred to the divided Germany. The nation was literally divided into two countries, East Germany and West Germany, to prevent it from, again, rising to such dreadful power, just dreaded power. So we see this Third Reich on Hitler, and we see this four heads and this four beasts, and we're going to go to this forehead and see what this forehead represents. So the Fourth Reich from 1951 to present, right? Germany had France sponsor the European Coal and Steel Community, which evolved into the present-day European Union. The euro is now the common currency, and Germany is still dominating nations in the EU. Right? So Daniel's prophecy, right, is right on point, identifying these beasts. So we just identify 3 of the beasts: the lion with the eagle's wings, the bear with the ribs in its mouth, and we just now identify the 3rd beast, which is the leopard with the 4 heads and the wings of a fowl. So another beast, the 4th beast that we're going to look at. So the world will soon be dominated by the 4th Reich, the European Union. Its population is larger than the United States. Its currency is outperforming the American dollar on a regular basis. The oil producers of the world are talking about switching from dollars to euros. American politicians are beginning to realize what is happening. So the European Union is likely to fulfill many other Bible prophecies before the second coming, including the introduction of the anti-Messiah and the mark of the beast. With the complete participation of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, the Bible prophesies that the center of world power will swing back to Europe. So we see 1989, the Berlin Wall falls, and we see this new world order is starting to come into being, and we see Reagan back in 1989. We see the deadly wound was healed when President Ronald Reagan stood in Brandenburg Gate in 1989, and in front of a watching world challenged Mikhail Gorbachev to tear this wall down. Right, to tear this wall down. So the deadly wound was healed, and the 2 countries were united into one Germany when Mikhail Gorbachev ordered the Berlin Wall torn down in 1989. That is the deadly wound that was healed in the prophecies of Revelation 13, verse 3 and 4. So this is just one of the wounds that were healed, because this Roman Empire suffered many wounds, right? So this is one of the wounds that was healed to set the stage for the coming new world order. So George Bush Sr., in 1991, said that, we can see a new world, a world in which there is very real prospect of a new world order. So we're gonna look at this video clip real quick of George Bush Sr. Making a speech about this new world order, and also his son, former President George Bush. Let's have a look at this video real quick.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. From this day forward, any nation that continues to harbor or support terrorism will be regarded by the United States as a hostile regime.
Wow. So there you got it, folks. This new world order, it's coming. Eventually, we're gonna be under that one world government, that one world rulership, and whether people want to accept it, whether they think that it's a fairy tale, it still does not stop Bible prophecies. Doesn't stop Bible prophecy at all. So now we're gonna look at the Daniel's dreadful fourth beast. This last superpower. This last superpower, according to Daniel's dream, this dreadful beast. So we're going to see who this dreadful beast is. So Daniel 7 verse 6, look at it again. It says, after this I looked and saw another like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and rule was given to it. Revelation 13 verse 2. And the beast I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him its power, and his throne, and great authority. So we see all these beasts coming together to form one, and to form this one dreadful beast, right? So we see the United Nations, right, is this dreadful beast, right, according to Daniel, because we see it's a diverse enterprise with all, leaders from all different nations that come together to create one mind, right? And to build this giant community to exercise rulership and power across the earth. So the declaration fulfilled the prophecy that said the whole world wondered after the beast. Germany's reunification corresponds with the fall of Soviet Union, inspired all the globalists to take a giant leap toward world government. While it appeared the hardcore communism had fallen in both instances, shows socialism actually was rapidly rising throughout the entire global mindset. From that time, the role of the United Nations in international affairs took a giant leap forward, right? A giant leap forward. This dreadful beast is the United Nations. And the world wonder after the beast. So we see very very lot of symbolism here, where they gather and meet, and in the background we see all these imagery from these ancient images and statues and so forth. So see the United Nations definitely is that fourth beast. So Daniel 7 verse 7 says, after this I looked in night vision and saw a fourth beast, fearsome and burly, exceedingly strong, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the rest with its feet, and it was different, diverse from all the beasts that were before it. It had 10 horns. Right? According to Daniel, this new world order will be dreadful, terrible, strong, iron, and devouring. It will break in pieces and stamp the residues of everything that does not comply with its agenda. So the beast will be dreadful and terrible. The beast will be strongly exceedingly. The beast will have great iron teeth. The beast will devour and break in pieces. The beast will stamp the residue with its feet. Right? This beast, right? And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things decision that's been affecting us worldwide. A lot of the instructions have come from the United Nations, right? And all nations has to comply, right? So Revelation 13 verse 2 says, and the beast I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. So we know that the enemy, the adversary, Hashatan or Satan, is behind this beast, giving it authority, right, to rule over the earth. And we notice that the bear also has the mouth of the lion. And the reason why it has the mouth of the lion, because the language of this beast is English, right? English is the very deceptive language, and there's two sides to the English language, and this is the language that the beast was given to speak. So Revelation 17 verse 3 says, "And he carried me away with in the spirit of the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast covered with the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup filled with abomination and the filthiness of her horn. And upon her head a name written, a secret, Babel the Great, the mother of whores and of abominations on earth." So this woman is a woman that rides the beast, and this is another wound that they have to also heal, because they also have a religious part of this new world order as to also be in place. And the woman that rides the beast is the Roman Catholic Church, and she's the one that influenced the beast, because when you ride a beast, you have control of the reins, and you could steer the beast in whatever direction you want it to go. So Revelation 17 verse 6, and it says, "And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the set apart ones," which is the children of Israel, right? "And with the blood of the witnesses of, and having seen her, I marveled greatly marveled. And the messenger said to me, Why did you marvel? Let me explain to you the secret of the woman and of the beast she rides, which had the 7 heads and the 10. Revelation 17 verse 8, "And the beast that you saw was and is not, and is about to come up out of the pit of the deep, and goes to destruction, and whose dwelling on the earth, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the earth, shall marvel when they see the beast that was and is not and yet is." Revelation 17 verse 9, "Here is the mind having the wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains which the woman sits." Revelation 7 verse 10, "And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 sovereigns who have not yet received a reign, but receive authority as sovereigns with the beast for 1 hour. Revelation 17 verse 11, "And they have one mind, and they shall give their power and authority to the beast." Right? One mind, right? One world government, right? Daniel 7 verse 23, "This is what he said, the 4th beast is the 4th reign on earth, which is different from all other reigns, and it devours all the earth and tramples it down and crushes it." Verse 24, Daniel 7:24, "And the 10 horns are 10 sovereigns from the reign. They shall rise, and another shall rise after them, and it is different from the first one, and it humbles 3 sovereigns." Daniel 7 verse 25, "And it speaks words against the Most High, and it wears out the set apart ones of the Most High, and it intends to change appointed times and law, and they are given into its hand, and for a time and times and half a time." So this brings us to the end of this Sharpen Your Sword lesson presentation study. I hope this lesson was able to give you clarity and these 4 beasts of Daniel in Daniel's dream, the prophecy of what's going to take place in the end times. And we see that the New World Order, it's in the process of being introduced to society. And next stage is for Yoshua to make his appearance and to destroy this kingdom and bring righteousness back into the earth. So if you understand the importance of this issue, shake off the vain traditions of man and seek Yahweh's truth. May Yahweh favor you with the belief and understanding that pertain to his words. So I leave in peace as I come to you in peace with the Hebrew word of peace. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
trying to give them the truth, now they say I preach. I'm trying to give them this word,